And in the 2 years, 71, 72, it really did start to fall apart. We had to spend a lot of event money on the runway and the like.
First of all, we went looking for another airfield, and it's not easy to find one that's got all the infrastructure that's needed. So we looked all around the south of England, all the military bases. We went out to Manston, we went to Odium, we looked at Farnborough, we looked at all sorts of places. And on this reconnaissance, we were driving past Newbury, and there was a little sign up saying RAF Greenham Common. So we thought we'd call in and have a look, and discovered in that beautiful area there this 10,000-foot long runway.
That runway seemed ideal because the US Air Force were operating Greenham Common as a standby base. That meant they were keeping it in working order, but they weren't using it very often. And not only that, but the resident Americans actually seemed to like the idea of letting these strange but charming civilians bring their hundreds of visiting aircraft onto the base for their shows.
A particularly helpful commanding officer there, who was, when we first turned up, cutting the grass outside his headquarters building. And he invited us in for a coffee and a talk, and very quickly latched onto the spirit of our volunteer organisation, and saw the opportunity there for the show to take place and for him to actually turn his airfield over and all his support equipment, rather than his guys having to get it all out, start the start units up for no good reason. And he also saw a good boost for his morale, or the morale of his people. So it was a very fortunate chance discovery of Greenham Common.
"1973 was really the involvement of the Americans, because it was an American base, and this was the start of a very long and fruitful relationship, bringing to the UK aircraft that we very seldom saw. As an enthusiast, to see a KC-97 tanker in the flying display with its boom down doing a low run across the airfield was a great thrill for me, both to see it but also to be able to photograph it. But we saw during that period of the 1970s a change in the sorts of aircraft that the air arms were operating as well, and we were beginning to get frontline NATO aircraft, American aircraft like the F-111 coming through. We had the Tiger meet at Greenham Common, which brought in interestingly painted aircraft, and that was the first time again where aircraft in fancy colour schemes, to put it crudely, appeared on the air-to-two scene. Nowhere else were these aircraft being painted up specially to appear at an air show. And of course we saw subsequently the Phantom, the Dakota and various others in their Wilf Hardy colour schemes. And it was at Greenham that Wilf Hardy was introduced to the posters and the programme cover. And from then, from the Greenham Air-to-Twos, we've had a host of brilliant air show paintings that again has set the trend for display posters and publicity that's been copied and many times by other air shows. And now you can't go to a major air show in the UK, and indeed probably in Europe, without finding a Wilf Hardy painting of contemporary air show aircraft appearing on the publicity or the programme cover.